This is the greatest financial experiment in human history, and you're living inside it without even realizing it. Global debt has exploded to levels no civilization has ever carried before. Today, governments borrow trillions as if it were nothing. Central banks print money with a keystroke, and we talk about it as if it's all normal. But debt has always been a weapon, a tool of control, and a ticking time bomb. The real question is not if this mountain of debt will cause a crisis, but when. To understand how we got here, we need to go back. Debt is as old as civilization. The first records on clay tablets weren't poetry, they were ledgers. Wahud wom, how much grain, how many cattle. Early societies knew that too much debt could destroy them. They even had jubilees, total debt forgiveness, to prevent society from collapsing. Ancient rulers understood what modern leaders pretend to forget. You cannot enslave an entire population with obligations forever. At some point, the system cracks. Fast forward through history, the Medici bankers, kings waging wars on credit, empires like Spain going bankrupt, despite being flushed with gold. The lesson was always the same. Debt fuels ambition, but reality always sends the bill. The modern debt explosion, however, started in the 20th century. After World War I, Germany was crushed by reparations, leading to hyperinflation and chaos. Then, in 1944, the Bretton Woods Conference made the US dollar back to be gold, the anchor of the world economy. For a while, it worked. But the temptation was too strong. By the 1960s, the US was printing more dollars than it had gold to back them up. So, in 1971, President Nixon cut the dollars tied to gold. That was the quiet revolution. Debt was now untethered. Governments could borrow and print at will, limited only by trust. Each crisis since from the Latin American debt crisis to the 2008 financial meltdown was patched with more debt. The 2008 crisis wasn't just about housing. It was about debt, layered on top of debt. And who got rescued? The very institutions that created the mess. Ordinary people were left with unemployment and foreclosures. Since then, global debt has tripled, soaring past $300 trillion. That's nearly 4 times the size of the entire global economy. Countries like Japan and the US are piling on trillions in debt every year. We're borrowing money just to pay the interest on money we already borrowed. Politicians love debt because it buys time without raising taxes or cutting spending. The illusion works until it doesn't. When interest rates rise, as they did in 2022, the burden suddenly becomes real. Mortgages, government interest payments, corporate loans, everything costs more. The sleeping predator awakens. So, what comes next? History shows us there are only a few ways out. One is inflation. By devaluing the currency, governments secretly shrink the real value of their debt. It's a hidden tax on your savings and your wages. The second is restructuring, where lenders are forced to take a loss. The third is outright default, refusing to pay at all. All signs point to inflation as the preferred path. It's politically easier, and it lets the powerful off the hook, while ordinary people pay the price through a loss of purchasing power. The financial system is designed so that when debt becomes unbearable, banks get bailed out, corporations restructure, and you lose your savings, your job, or your home. This isn't just economics. It's about power, and understanding it is survival. You need to strip away the illusion that debt is free and harmless. Recognize the historical pattern. No system has ever escaped a reckoning with debt. Protect yourself by building real wealth assets that hold value, knowledge that cuts through the noise. The system will keep repeating its mistakes. The only choice you have is whether you face the next cycle blind or awake. Global debt is the shadow looming over our future, and history has the answers. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe, and I'll show you where to look.